In this week's Technique Tuesday video, I'll demonstrate two different single purl decreases and explain when and why you might want to use one versus the other. As always, if you'd like to jump right to a specific point in the video, there are direct links down in the description. Most of the time when we are using decreases to shape fabric, there are a couple of conditions that are true. One is that the fabric is stockinette or something very similar to stockinette. The second is that when we do the decreases, we are doing them on the right side of the work. So this is the public side of the work. This is the side of the fabric that will be seen when the project is finished. And the decreases that we do are knit decreases. We're working two knit stitches together and the result is a knit stitch. So those are three conditions that are often true, but not always. Sometimes one or more of those conditions is different. This is the same piece of fabric, but what we're looking at is the purl side of the fabric. When the purl side of the fabric is the right side of the work, when this is the side of the fabric that will be seen when the item is finished, we call this reverse stockinette. And if we were to do the decreases on the right side of the work, we would be doing it on the purl side of the fabric. There are situations in which you are doing decreases on both the right side of the fabric and the wrong side of the fabric. So the purl side might be the wrong side of the fabric, but you might need to do the decreases while the wrong side is facing. So I want to talk about the different kinds of purl decreases that you would use depending on what combination of those conditions you are working with. So let's start with the idea that we are working with a reverse stockinette fabric. That is, the purl side of the fabric is the right side of the fabric, and we want to do decreases while the purl side is facing, and therefore we need to do a purl decrease. I'm purling across the fabric and I'm ready to do a decrease. So the easiest decrease to do is a purl two together. So I enter both stitches as if to purl. I just go through both stitches like this, and then I purl them together. And what you'll notice is that right under the needle, you can see two strands of yarn. So you're seeing the heads of the two stitches that were worked together. That's what you see on this side of the fabric. You don't see a lean in the decrease like we talk about when we're talking about the knit side of the fabric. If I turn the fabric over and we look at some decreases I did earlier, you can see right here that these two columns of knit stitches, they each look like V's, and you can see how they join together, and you can see that the column on the right is the stitch that ends up on top, and we say that that has a left lean. And over here where the other decreases worked, these two columns of stitches joined together, and the stitch on the left ended up on top, and we say that's a right leaning decrease. So these decreases on the knit side of the fabric have an obvious lean, and so if we are doing decreases on the knit side of the fabric and the knit side is the right side of the fabric, we need to be aware of which way that decrease is going to lean. But if the purl side of the fabric is the right side of the fabric, we can't see that lean, so it doesn't matter. We could work a decrease at each end of the row, and that decrease could be a purl two together at both edges. It really wouldn't matter because from this face of the fabric, there is no lean. If the knit side of the fabric is the right side of the fabric and we have mirrored decreases like we have here, where we have a left leaning decrease at this edge and a right leaning decrease at that edge, and we need to continue doing those decreases as we work additional rows, but some of those decreases have to be done on the wrong side of the work, then we need to use a different purl decrease at each position that will create a result that looks the same as these two decreases right here. At this edge here, I want a decrease that leans to the left. And at this edge, I want to produce decreases that lean to the right when viewed from the right side of the fabric. A right-leaning decrease is a knit two together. If I want something that looks like a knit two together on the right side of the work, but I want to do it on the wrong side of the work, then I do a purl two together. So the opposite of a knit two together is a purl two together. And I'm working this decrease. I've got 3 stitches in from the edge, and then I'm working the decrease. So I've worked my 3 stitches, and now I'm ready to do my purl two together, which I will do. And now I want to purl all the way across until I'm 5 stitches from the edge, because I want these 3 stitches to remain plain, and it's these 2 stitches right here that I want to work together. So I have 5 stitches remaining, and what I want to end up with is a decrease that looks like this left-leaning decrease. A left-leaning decrease is called an SSK. The opposite of an SSK is an SSP. And the way that you do that is starts out very similar to an SSK. You slip 2 stitches, one at a time, as if to knit. That will remount the stitches on the needle so that they are sitting on the needle differently than they were before. Then you want to move those 2 stitches back to the left needle, preserving this new stitch mount. So I've got my needle through the fronts of those 2, just like I would for an SSK, but I pull out my working needle like this, and now I need to work those 2 stitches together through the back loops. And that can be really tricky. And so the way that you do that is that you point your left needle toward yourself like this, and even turn it so you can see the back side of it. And you're going to come through the back loops of those 2 stitches like this. And then you can purl them together. You'd wrap your yarn around and you purl it through, pull the yarn through, and then the stitch is complete. So now when we look on this side of the fabric, we can see that this line of stitches is staying on top all the way. So we've got this left-leaning line of stitches that continues to go up. And over here we have this column of stitches right here that continues to stay on top as these stitches are decreasing. So this is the right-leaning decrease here, and that's the left-leaning decrease there. While I mentioned that a purl decrease does not lean on the face of the fabric that is entirely made of purls, the face of the fabric may include knits and purls, and sometimes stitches of 2 different types need to be worked together. Next week, I'll demonstrate whether to use a knit decrease or a purl decrease when you are working 2 stitches together that are not the same. And then I'll explain how to decide which of the 2 knit decreases or purl decreases you should use. If you have any comments or questions about today's video or suggestions for videos you'd like to see in the future, you can leave those down in the comments below or join the discussion in my Ravelry group, Rox Rocks. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.